A lifetime of hard work, children laughing in the kitchen, family photos on a restaurant wall, a legacy that lives on. It all comes from the power of a conversation, like the one Tommy Hall had with First Horizon Bank about taking over his father's Charleston-based restaurant business. Now the table is set for a whole new generation. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Tommy. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond is a podcast that gives everyone and anyone a place to come and keep it real about their cancer experience. Welcome to Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond. In this episode, Carrie chats with fellow breast cancer survivor Meridith. Now, the two of them met on TikTok, so that's a fun conversation right there. But then they go into Meridith's diagnosis, how she handled doing this all through the pandemic, and the power of social media. And before the episode starts, a big shout to Derma Vitality. They are sponsoring this episode of the podcast. We really appreciate it, but we have something better than that. If you go to carriemadrid.com and then go to Carrie's Favorites, you'll find a link right there that will get 15% of your purchase from Derma Vitality that will go back to the Care Project. Again, carriemadrid.com, and it's under Carrie's Favorites. And if you want to share it online too, that's great. Thanks again to Derma Vitality. So let's get this conversation started. This again, Meridith Ellis and Carrie Madrid. They're TikTok friends. You'll hear all about it.
Hey Meridith, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm doing really amazing. It's been a good day.
Good. Thank you for being patient with the scheduling of this recording. My life has been so chaotic and so crazy over the last couple months, and I've wanted to have you on for quite some time. So I want to tell people, first of all, how we met was through TikTok, right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So my friend Ellie, who briefly managed my social media for the Care Project, and then I took it back from him just because I'm a control freak. I said to him, he's like, you have to get on TikTok. I was like, no, all I know about it is it's people doing these silly dances, and that's fantastic for them. But I can't manage one more thing. I already do Instagram and Facebook personally and professionally and LinkedIn, and doing another thing just, it was daunting. And boy, am I glad I went on, because I have met Cancer Talk. I mean, Cancer Talk is like Cancerland. I always refer to Cancerland as those that we meet along our way and within our experience. Cancer Talk is the side of TikTok, if you will, where so many people fighting all types of cancers, all stages, some end stage, some dying, are right there to support one another. And so I've started sort of a series on the power of social media, which is why I wanted Meridith on. You are incredible, lady. So I want to hear a little bit about your story, and then we'll get into the power of social media. So tell me first and foremost, where are you located?
I am in Carmel, California, which is in Monterey. But when I was diagnosed, I was in Gainesville, Florida, and it was 6 months into the pandemic. And I'd fallen in love, and we were planning on moving out here. And I got diagnosed 1 year into our relationship with my Prince Charming. And I had a lumpectomy. They thought they were going to get it all with a simple lumpectomy. And then I had cancer in my lymph. So I had a lymph dissection, and they didn't get clear margins. So then I had a mastectomy in Florida. We packed up everything, sold my house, sold my business, and moved to California so that I could do my treatment here. So I did ACT chemo. I'm invasive ductal carcinoma, 1B, ERPR positive, HER2 negative, BRCA negative.
Wow.
So I did ACT chemo. I had reconstruction on my cancer breast and a mastectomy on my prophylactic breast. And then I did radiation. So I did my reconstruction before my radiation, but I had an amazing radiation doctor, and my plastic surgeon felt really comfortable having him do that before.
And that's really important to talk about because those in our world, they know everything you just talked about, but the average listener may not. So let's go back just a little bit. Let me
Okay.
ask you this. How did you find your own lump
I
or
found
did
my
you
own
find it
lump.
on?
I found my own lump. You know, we were newly in love, and it was COVID, and it was lockdown, so we were naked a
Yeah,
lot. And
right.
I
Hey,
I had my hand on my breast, and I felt a little lump at 3 o'clock on my nipple. It felt like a little tiny pea-sized lump. And I started to think about it, and I noticed that my nipple had started tilting inward. And
mhm,
then I slowly remembered it, and all came together, that over the course of the previous few months, I'd noticed some very pale greenish yellow bruising around that area to the inside of my right nipple. And
okay.
so I called my OBGYN. Actually, I called the mammogram center first, and they're like, you got to get a referral. So I called my OBGYN, and the waiting began.
Yeah, okay. Let me ask you this. When you first discovered the lump, did your brain automatically go to, oh my gosh, this could be breast cancer? Or did you just sort of go, I should probably get that checked out?
I got cold chills. I got cold
Okay.
chills. You know, my life was going so perfect. Everything had just come together. And it just, it felt like too good to be true. Like, oh, here it is. Here's the other shoe dropping,
Yeah.
here's where it gets real. And it did. It got really real really fast.
Mhm. It
Um,
doesn't it feel like once you get your diagnosis, like everything it's just like a downhill coast. I mean, it's just fast.
it's fast, and it's excruciatingly slow at the same time. It's
Mhm.
definitely a roller coaster. The waiting is so painful and so scary. And then the grief, as it hits you. I mean, first you're in shock. I was in shock for a couple days. I knew that I had invasive ductal carcinoma, but I didn't realize I had cancer for 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something, yeah. I get it. Um so how did your significant other handle the news?
He had a sixth sense that it was cancer, as soon as we found the lump. And he
Mhm.
pretended like it wasn't. He was like, it's
Mhm.
a cyst. It's a cyst. You'll be fine. And the doctor's like, it's a cyst. 85% of these are benign. You'll be fine. Um, Eric has been my knight in shining armor. I
Mhm.
know that in my previous marriage, cancer would have been the end of my marriage. 100%, absolutely. He did not have the capacity to bear witness to someone he cared about walking through cancer. And he would
Yeah.
have made it all about him, as a lot of men do, you know?
Yeah, my boyfriend at the time left the day after my mastectomy when the day I came home from surgery. He was there for me going into surgery, and when I came out, he just couldn't handle it, and that was okay. That was okay.
Was it
It
okay at
was
the time?
yeah, absolutely, because I had 3 children to worry
And
about. I
you
couldn't
you
worry
didn't
about
have
another
you
one.
didn't have the energy. Yeah.
Nope,
And
moving on.
cancer cancer definitely makes things like that very clear to us, that the bullshit gets cut
Absolutely.
through really fast, and we see people's true
Absolutely.
colors. And for me, I didn't have the energy to put on airs or to suffer fools, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, you strike me as I think what drew me to you because I don't I follow a lot of people on TikTok, but I try to choose very wisely. When I first got on, I would instantly follow back anybody in the cancer community, especially breast cancer, just because I run a nonprofit and if there's any way I could serve them, support them, I would want to do that. And also as a 10-year survivor of stage 3, I have been to the ringer. I've been through the ringer. I've been to death's door and back a couple times. And I feel like by sharing when I have the time, I can hopefully give somebody some inspiration, some hope, things to think about, right? But what I quickly realized is I had to protect my peace as well. And everybody just like they say everybody grieves differently, everybody experiences cancer and deals with cancer and copes through cancer differently. And that's okay. But
Absolutely.
you don't have to surround yourself with those whose ways cause you angst or cause you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, we cannot be of service to anyone if we're damaging ourselves by absorbing other people's drama. You
Yeah.
know, so we really have to be selective about the people we choose to interact with.
Mhm.
You know, you can only help people who want to help themselves, and you can only make a difference when people invite you in to make a difference.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
can't
But
push
I, right, right. And what I was going to say is I think what drew me to you is you keep it real, which is how I function in my entire life, from personal to professional to nonprofit and mentoring patients. I keep it real. I have a huge heart, just like you. You have a love for people that you don't even really know yet, and because you're filled with empathy and you've been there, done that, so you get it. And I think your love for people is what struck me initially. But then what really sealed the deal for me, I was like, that girl's my friend, is when you're not afraid to speak up. When someone says something to you that's inappropriate, whether they mean to or not, you're not afraid to stand up. And I've seen you handle people in a way, and I say handle people because that's the way I see it. I see you handle people uh, sternly, strongly, respectfully, and downright, I'm pissed and I'm gonna let you know. And I appreciate that about you. What I see is your passion, right? Your passion for cancer patients being treated with dignity and respect, no matter what options they choose, whether it's treatment, no treatment, hospice, palliative care, cremation, I mean, it doesn't matter. You are about everybody needs to make their own choice. And how dare some outsider have anything to say about it? Whether you're a cancer survivor or not, you still shouldn't have an opinion.
Right, right. I got sober a long time ago in a 12-step program. And
Hmm.
part of that type of recovery is teaches you that you need to pass it on. And in order to heal your sickness, you need to share with others. And cancer made me feel so mentally ill. It made me feel so damaged, physically and mentally and spiritually. And I knew that by holding out my hand to the next person behind me, whether or not they choose to take it, just the act of holding it out would help to heal the devastation,
Yeah.
because it's absolutely devastating, and it's absolutely
Mhm.
devastating to us all. And we all may be having different experiences, but our feelings are all the same. We all feel afraid, and we all feel scared, and we all feel embarrassed, and we all feel ashamed, and we all feel disappointed, and we all grieve,
And
and
we all go through that at different times.
absolutely.
You know, I have friends that were absolutely hit the floor upon diagnosis, didn't get up again until they were done with treatment, and then they breathed a sigh of relief. And for me, it was the opposite. For me, my trauma drive, my fight or flight kicked in, and I was like, oh, really? Okay, let's go, bitch. Right. And I just took it head on. Because I had kids and I'm a single mom and I have to work. And I was like, I don't have time for all that crying on the floor stuff. I mean, there was some moments, alone, but really, it was my way of, I say coping, but I know now I wasn't coping. I was avoiding that shit like the plague. But I just went into fight or flight mode and I just plowed through. But it was at the end of active treatment when they tell you go home and we'll see you in 6 months or so and we'll think about reconstruction later, that the totality of everything I just went through hit me like, oh shit, I could have just died at least twice. I mean, because I landed in ICU, I was septic, I was hours from death, they say, like all these things. And I had no clue when I was in the middle of it.
Well, no, we're just trying to, tread water when we're in the middle of it. I was the opposite. I didn't have kids. And I had a partner who was going to baby me, and I wallowed. And I really wanted to feel all my feelings in the moment so that I wouldn't have a bunch of trauma to process at the end. Surprise, there's
Mhm.
still trauma,
Yeah. But
But
let me ask you, how did you have that? What had you gone through? And you don't have to go into detail, but because not very many people have the wherewithal to process that way and think ahead. They're just in the moment trying to get through it, right?
well, I mean, being in the moment is so vital when you're walking through this because the grief process takes us into grieving the life that we used to have and grieving the life that we imagined we were going to have. So staying present he helps us to stay balanced and grounded during that grief.
Mhm.
But also, when I was going through chemo, I didn't have time to do anything else or the energy to do anything else besides stay in the present. I was self-absorbed. I was self-absorbed and processing it, and it worked for me. And I'm
Yeah.
fortunate
And
that I had the space to be self-absorbed, because it's a lot of women don't, they've got families and jobs that they can't leave. I had to sell my house in order to afford cancer, but I was able to
Mhm.
take the year off because I sold my house.
Right, right. And everyone doesn't have that. So yeah, we all got our thing. It's interesting you say that. Like I have a lot of male survivor friends, and when I speak with them, some of them were the sole providers for their families. And now not only are they hit with a disease that most people think is just a female disease and they've got to deal with that and all their own feelings, and then they can't work. And now they're less of a man and it just all the things. I would say all that to say that everything you just described, I think some people might listen to this and go, "Well, I don't feel that way," or "I don't feel like that." You might not, and we hope you never do. But at some point you may. You may. Because like for me, I kept myself busy starting the care project a year after my diagnosis. I wasn't even done with everything. I
Wow.
started it, and that was my way, like you described, of putting my hand out. And the reason I did it is because I didn't have anybody. I had one person who was like a mentor to me, who a friend of mine introduced us, but she had gone through this in her 20s and it was like 10 years before, no, 20 years before. And things were so different. Chemo was horrendous. She really couldn't support me in the way that I needed it, right? Because she hadn't been through it recently. And
I
then
didn't
she
have
had a recurrence.
I didn't have anybody. I didn't have anybody.
Right.
I had
Right.
I had cancer muggles. I mean, Eric was absolutely amazing and his families, they're all doctors and nurses and they get it. But I had one girlfriend who cheered me on.
Mhm.
And then, all the cancer muggles who sort of fall out of your life, and especially moving all the way across the country. And having cancer during COVID, I was very, very isolated.
Yes, my friend, was it Danny? I think it's my friend Danny Riggs, also was diagnosed right at the height or the beginning of COVID.
Michelle
Was that
Gower was
Dan?
too. Michelle Gower.
Yeah, she was. And I know that one of the guys talked about his wife could only go to the very first appointment with him. And after that, he had to go. She dropped him off for mastectomy. She dropped him off for chemo. So what she did, excuse me, she had a shirt made like an obnoxious, think Hawaiian shirt print, right? Like Hawaiian print shirt with her face all over it. So every time he went to every single appointment, he wore that shirt, and that was their symbolic way of her going with him. It was very cute.
I think that while it was sad to do it alone, it was also very quiet to do it alone.
Mm.
My cancer center had big windows that overlooked the hills, and it was pretty. And I would just sit and float and meditate. I think that if Eric had been there, having somebody bear witness to what I was walking through and me imagining their experience of what I was experiencing would have been more traumatic for me. I think that I would have wound myself up more if I
I
had been alone.
100% get that. That's why when you asked me when my boyfriend left, was I really okay? Yes, because it was one less person I had to try to comfort. I had to try to
Exactly.
convince that I was okay. It was one less person because, it's just too much. It's too much when you're in the thick of it. So let me ask you this. Um, I know you said you processed your feelings, you felt all your feelings all the way through in hopes that you wouldn't have all this PTSD after. What would you say is the greatest piece of trauma for you? Like emotionally or is it physically? Like what was, if you had to pick like two things that were just really traumatizing, was it losing the breast? Was it losing your hair? Was it, is there two things that you can think of that really stand out for you?
Well, it's definitely the body dysmorphia for me. Yeah, I was staring in the mirror and not recognizing myself, seeing an alien. So confusing, and traumatic. And I would lose my shit, looking at myself. So the whole thing, the hair, the breasts, the sexuality, I was in this new, very sexual, very fun, very playful relationship. And all of a sudden it was mortifying, horrible amputations and, vomiting. And, Eric cleaned every one of my bodily fluids that you could have off of the walls. It's extremely humbling. But, so the trauma of the relationship trauma with that, and my perception of who I was in the relationship, was extremely difficult. I was very ashamed that I was sick and that I brought that into his life. That was
Tell me about that.
really
Tell me
hard.
about that. Tell me about, what do you mean? Like how can you, what did that show up like for you? Like shame.
Apologizing all the time, apologizing for my existence, apologizing that I was sick, apologizing for asking for help, apologizing for needing help, apologizing for needing rides. I had to teach myself, and it took me a while, with my caretakers, to stop myself from saying I'm sorry, because that added an emotional load to his experience, and instead say thank you. And it was really, really, really difficult because I dealt with so much shame. But as I started the practice of saying thank you instead of saying I'm sorry, I started to experience unconditional love for the first time in my life.
Yep. Yep. I get that.
Oh,
I totally get that. I totally get that. Thank you for sharing that. Because in 10 years of me living in this cancer land and 8 of those years running my nonprofit, I have met and interacted and supported many women and men in various age ranges, religions, single, married, gay, straight, different ethnicities. And there are certain cultures that it almost always, the main thing that they struggle with is feeling shame. And that's so hard for me to wrap my head around because none of us did anything to cause this. Like I grew up where there was tainted water and I drank out of the hose and I ran in the street and played in the water. Like that's what we did, right? And in my city where I grew up,
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
there were families upon families upon families wiped out from cancer because of this. It's documented. And so I know I didn't cause my cancer, right? And I mean, listen, even if a smoker got lung cancer and the doctor said, probably from that, there are people that get lung cancer that have never smoked a day in their life.
I
Right?
know that anybody else in my shoes, I would never say that they deserved it or that they asked for it or that they have anything to
Yeah.
be ashamed of, but I
Right.
have different rules for myself, you know.
Right. And we
And
do. And I think it's important.
when we walk through cancer, all of our baggage comes up, no matter how much processing we've done in our life, no matter how many appointments with the therapist, no matter how much recovery, whatever baggage you have left, it's going to be right on the surface. And we are just so raw with all of our
Raw.
baggage right on the surface.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything that you've suppressed or you thought you were done with, it starts to bubble up and come back. I always say it's as though I was refined by the fire. I
I
was
feel that way
taken
too.
from, yeah, I was 40. I was in the greatest shape of my life after battling, weight my whole life. I finally got in a great rhythm of exercise and eating healthy and just really caring for myself. And then this happened and I was just like, really? Like, really? I'd had a breast reduction 9 years before because I
Oh,
had
bless
these
your
huge
heart.
breasts. Yeah, so I went from having these huge boobs to having a reduction and then like, oh yeah, I like these. And then I get cancer. Like, are you kidding me? And
What
then I
kind of
have to go
surgery
through
did you have? What kind of
deep
deep flap?
deep flap. So because I gained and lost a lot of weight throughout my years, and then I also had 3 kids. I had my son at 18, and then I didn't have kids again until I was married, and then I had 2 daughters. So they were the oldest and youngest are 10 years apart.
So
So
you
you
had good
take
skin. You
I
had
had a
good
lot of
skin for a
skin.
deep flap.
I had a lot of loose skin. I had fat. I was the perfect candidate in theory for deep flap. However, I had extreme radiation. And with that said, when I had deep flap and was recovering, the side that was radiated, the incision split apart and I got a
Oh,
staph infection, which then landed me, sepsis and ICU and horrible, horrible near death experience. And if I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, which of course we never know when we're in the thick of it, I would probably have just gone flat and called it a day. Because initially I had a single mastectomy, and as I recovered from that and before I started reconstruction, I got back in the best shape of my life. I felt strong, I felt healthy, and I was like, I could walk around with one boob. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't. Nothing fits right. I've got this extra skin and stuff just laying on my lap. Let me get rid of it and use it. I just didn't want to deal with breasts anymore in terms of implants. And the reason being is, like I said, I had huge breasts. So from the time I was in fourth grade, I was teased, I was harassed, I was fondled, like the boys would snap my bra. Like, who has a bra in third grade, right? So breasts were always a source of contention in my life. So when this happened, I was just like, oh, you know what? You can't make this shit up. You really can't. So for me, that wasn't, yeah. Go
breasts were
ahead.
always a source of pride in my life. It was
Hmm.
always a rite of passage. And when you're a grown up, you'll have boobs and you'll be beautiful and everybody will love you because you have boobs. Unhealthy relationship with my dad. but yeah, so losing them was traumatic. This morning I took a shower and I had a little hair right next to my scar. I have a horizontal incisions, scars across my implant reconstruction. And I thought that it was a little leftover nipple hair from the outside of my nipple. And I got so excited. I got so excited that there might be this little remnant of my nipple. And I went like, Erin, look, there's a little nipple hair. I was so excited. And then I brushed it off. And it was just like, and then I started crying because it wasn't a
Aw.
nipple hair. It's an amputation. It's an amputation.
Yeah. The first time I heard somebody say that, I was kind of taken aback and I was like, it's kind of harsh. And then I was like, well, technically, I guess it is. you know? It's-
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Uh,
What do you think is getting you through the day to day now?
oh gosh. Um, I love life
Yeah.
and there's so much I want to do. There's so much I want to do and so much I want to experience. I love being a human on this earth, as horrific as it can be. I don't know how many times I'll get to do this. Um, and certainly with my interactions with the cancer community, um, it's an honor. It's an honor to have neuropathy and to have pain in my underarm if I don't take my gabapentin. it's an honor for my feet to hurt because being alive is an honor and a privilege. And I feel obliged to live well for all the people who have their lives taken away from them by
Yep.
cancer.
Absolutely. I say it all the time. It's the little things for me. It's the little things. It's the waking up and walking outside in the backyard. That's nothing fancy. With my dog and sitting down and watching the sunrise with the telephone wires going and you know what I mean? The helicopters going. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
care.
the birds
But
and the bird feeder for me. I watched them
yeah,
the whole time I was sick. I couldn't concentrate on a TV show, but Eric kept food in the bird feeder all the time, and I watched the bird feeder for hours and hours every day. And I still do.
yeah.
I have names for the birds.
I love that.
I have so much gratitude.
Yeah.
I have so much gratitude.
Right.
And
Right.
I acquire that gratitude through the grieving process. I acquire that gratitude for everything that I've lost and um you know uh watching and learning from other people's lives.
Mhm.
you know
You know, one of the things that you do, which is so great, is on TikTok, is you keep a calendar, and anyone in Cancer Land or Cancer Talk, I should
yeah,
say,
where's my
that
calendar?
wants, yeah, that wants to share what they've got going on. If they're about to have chemo that day, or they're going to radiation, or maybe they're undergoing surgery or a scan. Meredith keeps it on her calendar, and she will do a post almost daily and say, so and so is, yeah, there's the
I don't
calendar.
know if you can see all the posts, but
Yeah.
there's dozens and dozens and dozens of names of women and some men. And I look at each of these names, and they are walking through a trial that day. They are
Yeah.
walking through trauma, and they are walking through fear.
Yeah.
And it puts my life in perspective. It definitely
Yeah.
puts my life in perspective. And and that part of me does it selfishly. And also because I was so alone, and I don't want anybody to feel alone.
That's it.
I don't want anybody to feel alone.
And that's what I was going to say, that those people get out of that. Like when I hear you talk about like Michelle, like she's a personal friend of mine, she's been to my house and I adore her. And, when you mentioned her name, and I was just thinking, you know, I know what she's feeling. I know what she's going through. And now so do millions of other people, anyone that sees that TikTok. And if it's just three strangers that hear it and go, oh, I'm thinking about her. I mean, it's so powerful.
Well, I think the other thing too is it connects people with like cancers.
Absolutely.
And that's I've always loved networking people together and hooking people up.
Yeah.
And so hooking cancer people up with people that have the same cancers. I had a really amazing thing happen a month ago, where I had two women getting double mastectomies at the same time, and one had no presence on CancerTok's. She was just starting to message me and ask questions. And it's an honor when I'm like the first person that people reach out to, and I take that responsibility very seriously. And so, long story short, it turned out that they were both in the same town, and they were both going to the same hospital.
Oh.
And their double mastectomies were literally one appointment right after the other. And the night before their double mastectomies, I was able to connect them so that they could talk, and so that they knew that in the next booth over, or in the next hospital room over, one of their CancerTok's sisters was walking through the exact same thing.
I
And
love that.
that's what it's all about.
That is the power of social media. That is the power of social media and connecting people. Yes, it can be an outlet just for silliness and fun, but it can also be so powerful like that. I think what you said is so important. The best advice when I'm asked, what is not the best advice, the first piece of advice you would give to someone newly diagnosed, the first thing I say is get around other people who have that cancer, or someone who's a survivor of that type of cancer. That's so important to me more than anything, because those people get it, They've been there, done that. You can bounce things off of them and say, like for me at the Care Project, if we have a monthly social and someone comes in and there's, my doctor's mentioned this and that, maybe discussing, I'm just going to say as an example, reconstruction. Well,
Right.
they said this. Do you all know what that means? And we can all go, oh yeah, let me tell you about it. Let me tell you about my experience, or what does that mean? Because when you're in the moment and you're given all this information in that doctor's office and they go, so do you have any questions? And it's like, I don't even know what to ask at this point, right? And then you go home and you start thinking, it's like, well, maybe I should have asked that.
Oh
So
yeah,
having a group of other people, right?
the group think for the information and from information gathering is absolutely wonderful, but also too, I can tend to isolate at times and think that my problems are the worst, and nobody's ever going to understand me, nobody's going to get me, and I've heard it called terminal uniqueness, I'm so special, I'm so different, nobody will get it. And the the experience of going through cancer is extremely isolating, even if you have a terrific community.
Amen.
You feel so alone and so alien and so trapped in this sick body. And everybody else is on the outside world and they're moving around and free, and you are just trapped in this cell of a vomiting, sick body. So having people I can bear witness to them who are a few steps further than me and doing well, gives me a goal to shoot towards. And that's why I like ringing the bell for people, and why I think it's very important to ring the bell. I realize that ringing the bell can be very traumatic for people who are stage 4 and will never get to ring the bell and will be on treatment for the rest of their lives. But that's not my experience, and all I have to offer is my experience, and I'm here to, as long as I'm healthy, lead other young women and old women, lead women and men through the experience and shine a light at the end of the tunnel.
I have a lot of metastatic friends, and one of them is one of my friends is metastatic, is one of my best friends. And we've had this discussion in group, and it was a very emotional one because that we talk a lot about like survivor's guilt, right? So if someone all of a sudden has a recurrence, and here I am 10 years out, I had all these lymph nodes involved, I had a very, very advanced case. You know, according to statistics, I should have a recurrence by now, but I don't. And now here comes my friend who was initially stage 1 or 2, and now she's got one. And my best friend Lavetta is quote unquote terminal, right? And Michelle. But we had a discussion on the whole ring the bell thing. And they said, we want to celebrate with you and for you every single time. Don't you dare not, because you think you're sparing me. I want to cheer you on. I want to celebrate with you. My story is not your story. Your story is not mine. We all have our own path. And so I love that. And I try to share that because I know there's a lot of us that sometimes we feel bad, that we're celebrating, but our metastatic friends are celebrating too with us.
Right. And I think that, when you're grieving through cancer, being able to bear witness to somebody succeeding, if you're in the right place, if you're not already really like down,
Right.
you can use that to get out of your own experience and just experience joy for someone else.
Yeah. Just be present with someone and share that space is really powerful. Let me ask you this. What is the greatest lesson learned?
Oh, golly.
Or one of them?
That I'm strong.
Yeah.
That I'm strong and that I can push through discomfort, that I do not have to listen to pain, that I do not have to let fear and pain play a part in my decision-making process, and how much I want to live, how deeply I want to live.
Yeah. And live fully, right?
Yeah.
When we say that, I think people don't understand. People that haven't been through cancer themselves or with a loved one, they hear that and they go, "Ugh, well, of course we all want to live." No, no, you don't get it. You don't get it until you get it.
No,
We live
I want
fully.
to profoundly experience through all of my senses every
Yes.
aspect of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to see everything and feel everything and smell everything and taste everything and fuck everything. I want to live.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want this life is so precious.
And it's so short.
So precious.
Yeah. I often say all those old cliches that we thought were corny growing up, they're all real.
Oh yeah.
Life is short, don't sweat the small stuff. It's so real. And I've been quoted as saying, which pisses a few people off, I almost wish that everybody had a near death experience so that they would come out on the other side with a zest and a love for life. Like you said earlier, as screwed up as the world can be, um, there's so much beauty in it, right? And unfortunately, some of us have to go through a lot of trauma, including cancer, to come out on the other side and really see it.
I really thought that my alcoholism was going to be all the trauma I needed to appreciate life,
Well, apparently you're a little hard-headed and needed something else. You had to go big home, go big or go home, right? Yeah, I know. I've been through a lot, and I always say I feel like part of my peace, like I had a real peace when I got my diagnosis, and I don't say that like, oh, no, it just is what it is. I had a real peace about it, and I just felt like it was a responsibility given to me, and I didn't know why. I just knew that at the time, I had 32 basketball daughters through the high school that were watching me, that I was like their team mom. And I thought,
You
maybe
gotta
it's to
walk the
show
walk.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's to show them how to deal with some life-threatening thing. I don't really know. I didn't have any delusions of grandeur like, oh, I'm going to go start a nonprofit. No, that just happened. But I always say, I think all the things that led me up to my cancer diagnosis, I was really a survivor way before cancer. I lived in survival mode. And the day that I got my diagnosis, I began living.
Yeah.
That's no fairy tale. That's no bullshit. That is, and anyone who knows me will attest to that. I am fully living my life now, more so than ever.
Wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wholeheartedly.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to have you back because I want to have you on with our friend Jamie Kristen, who is going to be joining me soon.
I just saw her new girls today. She looks
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. She's a little swollen, but she's come through, and I was so worried about her. We do a lot of late night texting, and we've just become fast friends, and I adore her. And
I do too. I do too.
yeah, there's something to be said about bonding through this experience, right? So powerful.
Well, I mean, it makes all the suffering that I went through, it gives it value. When I can use it to help someone else, it makes it not ugly. It makes it beautiful when I can help someone suffering.
Yeah. Oh, I have the chills. That's my life. That's my life, and that is my life. That's why I look so haggard today. Thank God this is audio, because I'm exhausted. I have been up. I get a lot of late night texts from many people, and right now there's a lot of people going through stuff. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we had a chance to chat. We will do this again. I want to talk with Jamie, Kristen, with you as well, and some others, because I know that you're making a difference by doing those daily posts and encouraging people and asking us all to keep them in our thoughts and prayers and whatnot. And I just want to thank you on behalf of all of them, because you're acknowledging that people are going through some tough stuff, and they're not alone. They're not alone.
It's very, very humbling, and it's an honor. It is an honor to make space for people and to give them someone to see them. Yeah,
That's it.
I want people to know that they're seen.
That's it. That's absolutely it. That's priceless. So Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm going to go to bed now. It's Friday night, and this is what I do on Friday night. I go to bed.
Oh, yeah.
No, but listen, special thanks to our friends at Derma Vitality. You can go to carriemadrid.com, click on my favorite things. I think I'm Oprah now. I've got my favorite things on my website. But truly, Derma Vitality is a line of natural and organic products that support patients during treatment, specifically chemo and radiation. Developed by an oncology nurse, Mr. Mark Brown, and breast cancer survivor Leslie Nygaard. He was actually her nurse when she was going through treatment for breast cancer. And then they became friends, and then they developed these products, and they're amazing. So you can request free samples. And I also have a link you can shop. So check that out, dermavitality.com or carriemadrid.com. Thank you so much again, Meridith. I will talk to you soon.
Have a
Take
beautiful
care.
evening. Sleep well.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond. Please let us know what you think of the show by leaving a rating and review. And don't forget to share it with a friend. For more information or to connect with Carrie, go to thecareprojectinc.org.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Can you have zero interest in something and still really want it? Your wallet would say yes. And with Simply Zero from South Carolina Federal Credit Union, you can transfer credit card balances and get 0% intro APR for 12 months. That's right, no interest all year. So you pay less and keep more. To learn more, visit scfederal.org/simplyzero. That's scfederal.org/simplyzero.
Variable APR ranges from 11.74% to 17.99% thereafter. Limited time offer restrictions apply.